I'm Axel Cushing, Editor-in-Chief of GameLuster, and this is a special edition of The Score, a weekly digest of news and commentary from GameLuster and around the industry for the week ending September 2nd, 2023. It's been a grim week as far as studio closures and layoffs. The most high-profile of these was the shutdown of Descent and Saints Row creator Volition as part of Embracer Group's ongoing restructuring efforts. Also affected by the restructuring is Gearbox Publishing, though the extent of the layoffs there are not quite as clear. Blackbird Studios, who were working on Homeworld 3 for Gearbox, has laid off over 40 employees. Me Games is shutting down after releasing Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew, though they've stated they'll continue to support the game for the foreseeable future. And Polish game studio Black Eye Games announced that they're closing down, along with their MMO, Gloria Victis. While game studios closing is nothing new, so many of them shutting down in such a short time frame is understandably concerning. While Embracer's restructuring efforts are likely to lead to other shutdowns in the near future, studios which are unaffiliated closing down at the same time suggest there might be a larger underlying issue happening within the industry. SAG-AFTRA, already on strike from movies and television, looks to be expanding their efforts. A post on the union's website announced on Friday that SAG-AFTRA's national board has voted to put forth a strike authorization vote for members involved with a number of video game publishers and AAA studios, including Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Take-Two, Warner Bros. Games, and Activision. As with the ongoing film and television strike, SAG-AFTRA is seeking higher wages for performers as well as protections against AI implementations for voice work and performance capture. The union stated that this is not a declaration of a strike, but rather a preparation for one should talks break down with publishers when contract negotiations resume later this month. Fundamentally, I can't argue against wanting to make sure that actors aren't digitally indentured because an AI can reproduce their movements and voice to a sufficient degree as to effectively render the actor superfluous beyond the initial captures. At the same time, if studios and publishers shut down at the rate they have been, or if that rate accelerates, the actors' opportunities for work are going to be diminished anyway because nobody will be in a position to hire them. Right now, I believe the games industry is facing not an unprecedented set of circumstances, but one that has certainly not been seen for a long time. You are seeing considerably higher inflation for durable goods, commodities, that sort of thing, and this is starting to translate into the video game sector, both in terms of the cost of games, which has been going up bit by bit, the cost of consoles, which has miraculously kept going up, or at least starting off as going up despite Moore's Law, and now we're going to be seeing it with the various subscription services such as Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. We are also seeing, because of the SAG-AFTRA strike potential, and by extension also the actual strikes going on with the writers and film and television, there is a distinct possibility that games and gamers will be running into some very silent games coming up in the future. Ones that are not relying quite so much on motion capture, ones that are not relying quite so much on recognizable voice talents. In and of itself, this could be a good thing, particularly for voice actors who have been, if not shut out of other roles because of the big name draw, but also newcomers who have yet to establish their credentials. If it becomes a case where the big name actors that everybody wants, such as, say, Bungie, for example, they recently cast Keith David to replace Lance Reddick. If Keith David is no longer able to work on Destiny 2 in his capacity as Zavala, assuming that he hasn't already recorded his lines yet, and that is kind of a question mark right now, then we may start seeing games for the next 4 or 5 years with considerably different voice talents than what we have seen previously. Of course, this also assumes that there is going to be a strike, which, that's a distinct possibility. I would not actually bet against the likelihood of there being a strike. Mainly because the video games industry is just so dead set on mimicking Hollywood at times that you kind of get the feeling that they don't actually pay attention to the Hollywood fights, even though they are in the technology space. They are not actually looking at it from a technology angle. Gamers are under pressure, basically. And it's not a pressure that they are going to be able to alleviate anytime soon. We have the rising cost of everything. We have the inflation, we have the big publishers, and even the platform holders marking up their subscription services, saying, "Oh yeah, we're raising the prices because of these extraordinary economic issues." A couple of days ago, Rob Fahey over at GamesIndustry.biz put up a very interesting op-ed piece, and the content of that op-ed was essentially that the subscription services, which includes PlayStation Plus, which includes Game Pass, which includes a lot of things, basically the whole notion is effectively a Ponzi scheme, or at least something that does not bear a direct resemblance to a Ponzi scheme looking at it, but from a practical perspective, it is operating like one. That the subscription revenues are intended to make up for shortfalls somewhere else, whether that's in hardware, whether that's in production, marketing, something. And it's an interesting concept. I'm not even going to deny it. It does basically sound, or at least Fahey's argument sounds, as though these particular price hikes, certainly for PlayStation Plus and to a lesser extent Game Pass, are coming about because somewhere Sony and Microsoft are coming up short. They are coming up short on the hardware side. They're coming up short on the game side. They're coming up short someplace in their organization that relates to the platform in question. By and large, you are going to have areas of a business that is going to be a money sink, that it is only money that is going out. It does not inherently directly create any revenue. So marketing, that's kind of an indirect sort of thing, I would say. You're spending millions of dollars on ad production, on advertising space, paying off Jeff Keighley to get a good spot during the Game Awards, that sort of thing. But ultimately, you have no guarantee that your marketing is going to provide a direct causal impact to the sales figures. Under other circumstances, this price hike that Sony has instituted for PlayStation Plus would probably be met with a lot of hostility, but also very grudging and resentful acceptance. Seriously, they are jacking it up 30% from the current base price for just the essential. But why? Now, Fahey argued that this might be kind of echoes of Sony from 2 generations ago, console-wise. That it's not the PlayStation 4 leadership team who confidently shut their mouth and did nothing to stop Microsoft from shooting itself in the foot. This is the PlayStation 3 mentality. This is the, oh yeah, gamers will get a second job if they want to play this badly enough kind of mentality. It was a stupid mentality then, and honestly it's a stupid mentality now. And the timing on it is just absolutely execrable, because gamers are getting squeezed. Gamers are having to make a choice between groceries and games. And frankly, groceries are going to always win out. Games can be a lot of fun. We like seeing the new games. We'd like to be playing the new games. We'd like to be there with our buddies saying, oh yeah, I did this cool thing on the game. But not if it means we're going to starve to death. A gamer's got to eat. And this is not going to encourage that kind of grudging acceptance. I would be very surprised if we don't see a large number of people opting not to update their PlayStation Plus subscriptions come the holidays. Of course, it's also possible that Sony might actually get it in their heads to think, okay, yeah, maybe we screwed up. We're cutting the price back down to where it was last year. Please ignore us. We screwed up. So sorry. But I can't quite believe that, because Sony is also under pressure. And so is Microsoft. And by extension, so are the other big publishers. EA, Take-Two, Rockstar, Warner Brothers Games, and also all of those guys that are under the Embracer Group umbrella, because they are just as affected by the cost of inflation as everybody else, if maybe not more so, because they are buying a lot of stuff. It's one thing when you have to buy a video card because yours burned out. When you're trying to set up a development studio, or whether you're trying to upgrade a development studio, that's a lot of video cards and a lot of CPUs, a lot of hardware. It's a lot of licensing issues for operating systems, productivity, tools, that sort of thing. There has been a question of late whether or not AAA is sustainable. There is a question of whether or not we can keep going as we have with the giant, big, shiny games all the time. I think the first hints that that may be forced to change have already been noted. It's been observed that Treyarch is not going to be putting out their Call of Duty game, or the one that they were supposed to be doing this year. We're going to be seeing, I think, a lot of cutting back. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of, well, call it content droughts, if you will. I think a lot of things are in the pipeline right now, but once that gets out, we are not going to be seeing quite as many new games. We are not going to be seeing quite as elaborate games. And that could be a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. The one thing that I am absolutely certain of is that things are going to change. The current economic climate is going to recede. Prices are going to drop eventually. Money is going to get back into the pockets of consumers eventually. But it's the eventually part which is going to be such a pain. And until that eventuality comes to pass, everybody's going to suffer. It's going to be the publishers, it's going to be the platform stakeholders, and it is going to be the gamers. That's going to suck. We are just going to have to sit down, grit our teeth, and ride things out until the end. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe. You can find other news articles, along with guides, reviews, and features on our website, GameLuster.com. The opening music for the score was written and performed by Nirav Gandhi. I'm Axel Cushing, Editor-in-Chief at GameLuster, and this has been a special edition of The Score. Thank you for listening.